Well, if you're in the market for a new home, you've probably done a lot of research on what's going to cost, what you need to be prepared for in terms of closing, all these different aspects. But there are some hidden costs of homeownership that you need to be prepared for. And quite frankly, it's not always easy. So today we're going to try to break that down for you, provide some areas where there might be some hidden costs, and better yet, tell you how you can prepare. Well, glad to have you on another episode of the Smart Mortgage Show. I am Ben George with Bill Litton. He's a regional president at Cross Country Mortgage. We got a good show for you today. Bill, I think this one's a little bit different than we've done before. We talk about mortgage lending, home buying, all kinds of different topics. We got a number of episodes, so I encourage you to go back through those and check them out. Hit subscribe while you're here as well. But we haven't really gone into some of these home ownership costs, and I think this is a great topic because anybody that you talk to about home ownership, one of the big pushbacks is, well, if you're renting, you don't have to take care of all these homeowner costs that are associated with having to keep your house up.
Yeah, I think that, look, I think we talk a lot about transparency, having all the information going in so you can make really good decisions. So we definitely want to make sure that you're, having these considerations top of mind, built into your budget as you prepare to buy a house.
Yeah, so we're going to kind of hit three areas: property taxes, homeowners insurance, and also home maintenance. Three big areas as it relates to expenses for keeping up your home. So let's start property taxes. I know this oftentimes is worked into your mortgage, right, Bill? So we don't always see it. I think I might get something in the mail once a year that shows me kind of what the property taxes are, what the property's valued at, that sort of thing. But what do we need to know in terms of property taxes, and how does it impact us?
So I'm going to get a little bit geeky here with the math, but I think there's some value. So when you think about $1,000 per year in property taxes, if you divide that by 12 months in a year, that's $83 in your payment per $1,000 of property taxes. Okay. Because you're dividing by 12. The mortgage, if it's a 30-year mortgage, it's stretched way out over 30 years. It's $5 a month. So $83 a month versus $5 a month. So per thousand, property taxes are 16 times more impactful to your payment than $1,000 of borrowed loan amount. So that's a big one. So you could be looking in a high tax area where taxes are $10,000 a year, and you might only, you might max out at a $400,000 house, and then you go to an area where taxes are $4,000 a year, and that might allow you to go up to $450,000 with the same payment, $50,000 higher, just because the taxes are lower.
That's interesting. So it does impact really what you're looking for and the house you're looking for. I don't think a lot of people think about the property tax when they're searching for a home, right? They just kind of see what the price tag is, and that's kind of what they're locked into.
Yeah, and we're always trying to educate and say, hey, are you paying attention to real estate, especially with first-time home buyers? Are you paying attention to real estate taxes? Real estate taxes? I pay income taxes, and they just don't know. But then we start educating on that, and the light bulb goes off, and they say, oh, wow, we got to yes, we have to pay attention to that. That's important. The other thing too is, are the taxes in the area that you're buying, are they capped? Right? Like when an area is, when there's an assessment, when you're reassessed, okay. Delaware County, Pennsylvania, doesn't reassess often, but they reassessed a few years back. And some areas taxes went down, some areas taxes went up. We live in Delaware County, and our taxes actually went up, not dramatically, thank God, but they went up larger than the annual, inflationary increases, right? They went up to reset the levels. You want to make sure that you're aware, and that doesn't happen often. So I feel like that's a blessing in Delaware County. How do taxes? I know in Florida, properties are reassessed when they're sold. So if the house has been owned for 30 years and the taxes are $2,000 a year, and they're going to reassess 30 years of changes, the new buyer, you should know your taxes are going to be very different upon that purchase. Also, you should know what the exemptions are. So you can Google just, Chester County, Pennsylvania tax exemptions. And there you might save. There might be homestead exemptions or other exemptions for veterans and ways to save money on your taxes.
Yeah, that's a big one too. I learned about that when I bought my first property, and having that option. It was a nice option to have, but again, it was something that somebody had to make me aware of. It's not something that's advertised to you necessarily right away. So again, this is all about kind of showing you what questions to be asking, and making sure you're aware of these different items. How can you prepare for this? Is there any good ways to prepare for these property taxes? Anything you can be doing?
I think it's just, as you're looking at houses, make sure that you're getting accurate tax figures to plug into your payments. That's the most important piece of the puzzle. And then, like I said, hopefully you're working with a really good real estate agent and or title company that you found or is referred to you by your lender or your realtor. You can ask them about how the taxes work, and they're going to have a lot of information for you as well. That you're paying for their service on the title company end. Call them, ask questions. Any good title company is going to be glad to answer your questions.
All right. So that's the property tax category number one. Number two, homeowners insurance. We got to have it on our house, Bill, right? And I know it's part of the process, and it's an expense that, we probably rather not pay, but we need to have that covered. So what's most important here? What do we need to know about this insurance policy?
So homeowners insurance, what I would say is your lender should know, based on the purchase price of the house, roughly what the premium should be. Now, if you check with 3 different insurance carriers for the same address, for the same home, they could have 3 very different annual premiums, because maybe company A, the premium's very high because something in their risk, analysis, they just don't like. They've had really bad experiences with aluminum siding, right? Or who knows what, but for some reason, company A doesn't like it, but company B loves it. There's nothing about that house. And so the premium's a lot lower. Same address. It's going to be the same home in the same area. If the number's off, and your lender will be able to tell you that, it would definitely make sense to get another quote. And some people, we just say, hey, you might want to get 3 quotes. If you own a home currently, go to the agent that you're with, ask them. Chances are everything's going to be fine with that agent, right? You just stay right where you're at. If not, you may want to look elsewhere. If you're a first-time home buyer, you don't have homeowners insurance, you're either going to want to take a referral from somebody that, your lender, your realtor, or maybe whoever you have your renter's insurance or your car insurance with would be a good place to start.
Okay, good to know there. I know you have a note about carriers, maybe the possibility of them doing an inspection after the purchase. Is that a common practice?
Yeah, so some of these carriers do an inspection after the purchase, and then what happens is, the premiums go up if they see things they don't like. So I'd be careful. Now, usually those inspections, after you reach a certain purchase price or property value, some of these insurance carriers would mandate that they'd want to go out and do a quick inspection. If they do the inspection and they don't see anything, you're fine. But if they see things they don't like, be careful, because, I'm not saying that there's, insurance companies out there that their policy is to get you in low and then increase it. But just know, if they're going to do the inspection, what are they looking for? If it's that they come and they see that there's a trampoline outside, and that's because that, can be a big issue for some companies. Or if they're going to see that you have, dogs can be a concern too. You just want to know going in, are you working with a carrier that meets your needs, or is everything going to change once they come out and do that inspection?
It almost feels like a little bit like a bait and switch in that scenario.
And I want to be positive here, and I want to say that they're probably not trying to get you in low and change it. I haven't had that experience with like one carrier where I see that consistently happen, but I'll tell you, if it does happen to you, it's going to feel like a bait and switch. So ask the right questions going in to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's great to be aware of. Thanks for pointing that one out. With these homeowners policies, you hope and assume that your insurance company is going to take care of you should anything happen. Is there anything you can do in terms of due diligence to make sure you're working with a company that is going to actually take care of you, be able to step up when an issue arises?
Yeah, you want to work with a reputable company that's going to have customer service, that they're going to be available, that they're going to be there to help and process any claims that you have, and some are much better than others. So again, working with if you're working with a local reputable agency, they're going to be your advocate as well. So sometimes there's the cheap online option that looks great, and then you run into an issue and you're really not covered. That's, to save an extra couple $100 a year, it's not worth it. You want to go with a reputable carrier that's going to offer you the coverage that you need if there's an issue.
All right. Let's finish it out then with our third category today, home maintenance. I know this is one where everyone expects they're got to be spending some money here. Hopefully you don't get hit with a big expense early on when you buy a home, but how do you prepare for the home maintenance that's going to come with being in that home for a number of years?
Yeah. So what I would say is you definitely want to have the attitude of not if something happens, but when it happens, right? So things are going to happen. So we want to make sure that you're always prepared. And I think the best way to do that is have a home maintenance bank account where you're putting money into it. Maybe it's a couple $100 a month. And then when things happen, you're not going to need to feel like you're strapped and borrow money or hit into an investment account that you don't want to draw from. Or even if you had a credit card balance that, you kept relatively very little money on, that might be another thing to do. But I would make sure that you're planning for these things to happen, because they're going to happen.
And you got to kind of be prepared for everything too, right? I know a lot of people just think I got to worry about maybe a water heater going out, or maybe having to fix the roof in a few years or something like that. But there are all costs associated with your home, even like landscaping.
Yeah. And for me, I don't really enjoy landscaping. I'm allergic to grass.
Are you
So
really?
every time I cut, yeah,
Oh
so
man.
it's not fun. So then I have to get somebody to cut my lawn, and it's $50 a pop. So now that's an expense. That's $200 a month. Right. So definitely you want to make a budget and account for everything. If you have a pool, what's the cost? You're going to be running a pump all summer. Your electric's going to be higher. You're going to have chemicals. You're going to have opening costs, closing costs to open and close the pool. You're going to need a new cover every few years. Build that in, build a budget, save, put the money into a specified savings account for these things, and it'll make things a lot smoother for you.
Yeah, you'll never regret saving too much money, right? That'll never be
Yeah,
never be
right.
nothing you complain about. And again, it seems like if you've had a home, when one thing happens, five things happen. So you got to be prepared for everything happening at once, potentially. But it's just one of the areas of being a homeowner. But it all hopefully is all worth it over the long term. Anything else, Bill, expense wise, hidden costs that we need to be aware of, or just any final thoughts on this?
I think that if you take a minute and you build out a budget, I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle. And a lot of times we'll help our clients with a budget, but man, it's just so important to build out your budget, take your net income, subtract out all your debts, subtract out meals and entertainment, and then see what you have left every month, and make sure what you have left still allows you to meet your financial investment goals, funding your 401k. Being thoughtful about this is going to help you in the long term, in the short term and the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you need help, have any questions, want to maybe start the process for yourself of becoming a homeowner, best place to start is Cross Country Mortgage. Bill is regional president there in Chadds Pennsylvania. You can find him online at smartmortgageshow.com. The phone number, of course, 484-352-4151. All the contact info will be in the show description. Should be sure to check that out. And also, while you're here, please hit subscribe on the channel. Help us continue to grow. We'd appreciate that support. All right, Bill, we'll get out of here on that note. Thanks for the time as always. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in.
This program is for informational purposes only. Please consult a qualified professional before taking any action. Bill Litton is a loan advisor and regional president with Cross Country Mortgage, NMLS number 147060.